All right. Hey, people, Russ Jensen, Salt Lake City, about 5 p.m. on the 29th of December, 2016. We're talking yesterday about status, dominion, the place that you're at, creates jurisdiction, which creates authority. You know, we're talking primarily now today about federal legislation, how it applies to us, or it doesn't apply to us. So we need to understand that Congress of the United States legislates for several different areas. So there's a rule of legislative construction that you need to keep in mind that teaches that Congress, unless a contrary intent appears, is meant to apply, whatever that legislative act is meant to apply only within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. Now, here again, becomes one of those things we're talking about words of arts or arts of words, what they call that. Right? The territorial areas of the United States. Now, what is that? What could that possibly be? Now, typically, what comes to mind of most average citizens, average people, members of society, is the entire continental United States, Alaska, and Hawaii. That's the territories of the United States, isn't it? United States of America, land of the free. Huh? Now, when you start understanding how your government is structured, start to understand that the territory, when they're talking about that, Congress, if we read our Constitution, which everybody should be doing, we get to understand that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 is the area that gives Congress exclusive legislative authority over that 10 miles square, District of Columbia, the United States. That's the actual physical territorial landmass of the United States. That's it. Then it has territories and insular uh, possessions, small islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, those different things that they have. You know, we need to understand too that Article 8 is the enumerated powers section. That's the only area that gives Congress authority to legislate for the entire 50 union states and on those specific matters only. And yet, the exclusive legislative authority for the 10 mile square of District of Columbia and its territories, Congress is fairly unrestricted. And also, Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, where it talks about Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States. Now, if we go to our book, our source book, A Law of Nations, Book 2 talks about territories. So Book 2, Section 84, jurisdiction. The sovereignty united to the domain establishes the jurisdiction of the nation in her territories. So we talked yesterday what domain is. Domain is a field of action, thought, influence, territory governed by a single ruler or a government. Okay? I'm not talking about land or anything else. A field of action could be all kinds of things. We keep talking about this, hearing this word over and over, territories. So let's go look and see what territories might mean in regards to any legislative acts. And we're going to get this from the Corpus Juris Secundum, the CJS, which is legal encyclopedia, referenced all the time, incorporating court cases. Judges and Supreme Court justices refer to it all the time, helps them construct their holdings. But we go to volume 86, talks about territories, definitions. The word territory, when used to designate a political organization, has a distinctive, fixed, and legal meaning under the political institutions of the United States. It does not necessarily include all the territorial possessions of the United States, but may include only the portions thereof which are organized and exercise governmental functions under Act of Congress. Territories or territory as including state or states, and isn't that what we always see when you start reading these acts of Congress? Includes state or states, territories, all those different things, okay? While the term territories of the United States may, under certain circumstances, include the states of the unions as used in the federal Constitution, and in ordinary acts of Congress, territory does not include a foreign state. As used in this title, the term territories generally refers to the political subdivisions created by Congress and not within the boundaries of any of the several states. Now, we talked yesterday just a little bit about the fact that where you're standing at has a huge impact on what jurisdiction can be applied to you. Now, I just talked about that right there. Political subdivisions. Let's talk about that for just a second. Because when we start looking at some of these different things, let's talk about what an act of Congress is. Okay. The Supreme Court, back in the late 30s, I think it was. Anyways, Congress gave to the Supreme Court authority to promulgate rules. That was delegated at 28 U.S.C. 2072. And basically there, what they said is that any statute that's written that's in conflict with the rules established by the Supreme Court is automatically repealed. It's a way for the Supreme Court, I guess, to sort of streamline its business in the court systems. So if we go look at Rule 54C, Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, which is that, which says so any statute in conflict with the rules is automatically repealed. Okay? An act of Congress includes any act of Congress locally applicable to and enforced in the District of Columbia, in Puerto Rico, in a territory, or an insular possession. Therefore, that means that any federal legislation that uses those words, act of Congress, applies specifically and locally only in the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, in a territory, or an insular possession. Cannot apply to any of the several states of the Union. The independent nation state of Utah. And in that geographical area of the independent nation state of Utah, that act of Congress does not reach to me. Doesn't attach to me, doesn't apply to me in any kind of a way. Now, leads us to the question of what exactly is an act of Congress, and it starts to get us into the areas of money and why it is that your Federal Reserve notes, we know for a fact that they're in direct violation of the provision of the Constitution which require gold and silver, and that the states may make nothing but gold and silver as payment of debt, and yet that's what they've allowed to have happen out here. Now, and take a look at understanding that acts of Congress fall under the realm of associations. Now, if we go back to our book, Law of Nations, Book 1, Section 2, well, Section 1 is what talks about our the sovereigns and the sovereignty, but in Section 2 talks about authority of the body politic over the members. It is evident that by the very act of the civil or political association, each citizen subjects himself to the authority of the entire body. So, your sovereignty, your sovereign authority, public authority, is a political association, grouping of people. We start looking at money, understanding that the Federal Reserve notes, a private script, issued for the benefit of the members of the association known as the United States, working as public officers, handling a public That's what I'm looking for. But um, a public unit is what they're calling it, but a public resource, basically. Hmm? And in that, the Bank Act, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, they create an association, convert you into a officer, employee, or agent of the United States, because that would be the only people that would have permission to use this privately issued piece of paper. You know, I'm sorry, I'm just not doing a very good job of any of this stuff. No, anyways, it is through that mechanism, an association, which can also then become that would be a field of action, thought, or influence. Okay, that's part of the domain, uh, the territories. Okay, domain establishes jurisdiction of a nation in her territories. Territory can be an association, a group of people, it's a thought, it's a concept. But through that mechanism, they have changed your status from one of the sovereign authorities, lawful sovereign authority, one of the people. It doesn't say we, the people of the United States. If you're outside that Constitution, because that Constitution doesn't apply to you, that applies to your governments. What they can and cannot do. It describes to them their organization. It describes to them the limits of their power. The only place that that document applies to you is in that book, Law of Nations, where it speaks to you specifically. In fact, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, that book, Law of Nations, is the only place that Congress has given any authority to legislate anything for criminal activity. Define piracies, define felonies for offenses against the law of nations. That's it. Now, we also know for a fact that because of the multiple jurisdictions that Congress has the authority to write legislative acts for, it has to have some way of designating that so that I would know what applies to me, what doesn't apply to me. It goes to the concept of the void for vagueness. I need to know what my actions can and cannot be in specific terms so that I can understand what my conduct can and cannot be. And part of that have to be noticed. So part of the rules is that Congress, anything that applies to me as an individual member out here in the state of Utah, the nation state, Republic of Utah, not the state of Utah, because I'll explain that in just a second, has to be published in the Federal Register if it has any kind of general applicability or attaches a penalty or a requirement for any kind of an action on my part. Not in that Federal Register, doesn't apply to me. But funny, when we look in that book, Federal Register, we go to look to Title 18. It's the Criminal Code, United States Criminal Code. Everybody's prosecuted under for cannabis, isn't it? There's no provisions. There's no published regulations, no publication of any kind for Title 18, because it doesn't apply to me out here as an individual member of the Republic of Utah. It can only apply to members of territories, property of the United States, political associations that they might have created. You know, let's see if I can find this here too. We're talking about associations. Let's see here. Anyways, so we were talking yesterday about the fact that your domain, where you're standing at, where you're at, has to be one of the portions that has to be determined in order to acquire jurisdiction. But domain can be a territory, can it? And territory can be an association, a political group coming together for specific purposes, and it could still be in a geographical area, but the jurisdictional authority that goes along with that group falls on the group specifically as part of your membership in it. confers jurisdiction. Well, it's like when you work for a company. They can make rules and regulations for their employees as long as those aren't, in conflict with the rules of the laws of the nation, of the Constitution. But you can give a rule that says on every Friday you have to wear a blue shirt, and if you don't wear a blue shirt, you could be terminated. And if that's part of the contract that you signed, that you had full knowledge of when you signed on, you show up on that Friday wearing a red shirt, you can be terminated. You cannot complain about it. Okay? So that's what they've done through these tricky words, this lack of explanation, this multiple words with multiple definitions. They've primarily subjected you, turned you into public officers of the use of Federal Reserve notes and opening a bank account. So we'll go back and talk about that real quickly, what that says exactly, specifically what it says. The FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation Act, okay, an act of Congress, is hereby created a Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, here referred to as the corporation, which shall insure as hereinafter provided deposits of all banks which are entitled to the benefits of insurance under this act, which is 12 U.S.C., and which shall have the powers hereinafter granted. The term insured deposit means the net amount due to any depositor, other than a depositor referred to in the third sentence of this subsection, for deposits in an insured bank. Now, third section of this subsection is talking about what down here we just talked about here, but there's separate units. You're separate from me, and I'm separate from you. My account is not the same as yours. Okay. But anyways, each officer, employee, or agent of the United States, of any state of the United States, of the District of Columbia, of any territory of the United States, of Puerto Rico, of Guam, of America, Samoa, or the Virgin Islands, or any county, or any municipality, or any political subdivision thereof, herein called public unit, having official custody of public funds and lawfully depositing the same in an insured bank, shall, for the purpose of determining the amount of the insured deposits, be deemed a depositor in such custodial capacity, separate and distinct from any other officer, employee, or agent of the same or any public unit, having official custody of the public funds and lawfully depositing the same insured bank in custodial capacity. You open an account, you put those pieces of paper in there. In order to do that, you have to be what? An officer, employer, agent of the United States, or one of those other political subdivisions or territorial areas. See that word in there? County, municipality. Didn't used to have counties. Okay? That's part of the territorial association that they have laid over your geographical republics in order to expand federal reach, doing it through their Article 4 provisions, Section 3, Clause 2, to write all those rules and regulations for their territories and possessions. Okay? They create those counties. You live inside the county area. But here's the problem. Well, at least one of the ways out for us, okay? The counties, it's laid out on the map. You're looking at the map, those little lines drawn there. When they do those designations in their recorders, the recorder's office, we go to record your house deeds and things like that. Yeah, they're doing it off of meets and bounds. They're taking those measurements off certain locations, and that's where they start creating the lines of ownership for your deeds, your property lines, and things like that. But the problem is that those are not real locations on planet Earth. Those are made-up numbers, starting from a fictional starting point they just picked. Well, they didn't pick it; they picked in that geographical area, but they're not going off of proper geographical locations, which is longitude and latitude. So you're then claiming that you live in some fictional paper place, doesn't exist, and pretending that you're an officer or an agent or employee of the United States when you believe that you're just a man or a woman walking around, going to work, getting paid, and that's what you're using is called money. That is not money. The only money that could possibly be allowed in the United States of America, those 50 federated nation states, would be gold or silver coin. And your state cannot allow anything else but gold and silver to be made as available for payment of debt. Now they wrote HGR 192, which provides for the fact that you can discharge debt, pay it off, and allow it to be paid at some future time when there's real money. You're not paying debt. Okay? But that's just semantics also. Isn't it? In your mind, when you go down to the store and you give the guy $5 and you get some food or whatever out of his store, you feel that you've paid for that. You have gotten title to it. There's been a clean exchange. He can't come after you for theft, and you can't go after him for a breach. Okay? But in reality, all that's happened is that you've passed along $5 of debt to him in exchange for some tangible, real product. Okay? But he can take that $5 and go do the same thing over and over and over and over. So it's just a mind game. It's a word game. It's bullshit. Now, when you start reading Supreme Court holdings, when you start talking about contracts and contracts that change your status, like a marriage contract or being inducted into the Army, well, if you lied about that in order to get the benefit of the contract, you can't complain later. You can't use that your falsity, your lie, to get out of your obligations of the contract. They also say that it can't be the other way around, but I'm saying, that's in direct contradiction of contract law. Because you guys have then what? Done something to seduce me, induce me through fraud in order to utilize that. And you've done even more than that. You have actually removed any other options that I might have as far as operation and use of monies. And then claim that I'm some officer, employer, agent. You can then attach criminal liability to me too. When you don't have jurisdictional authority, was never granted to you, in that Section 8 of the Constitution of the United States of America, except for Article 10 in that Book Law of Nations. And it does break down some things in there very specifically about where your duties are, your offices, what they can and cannot be, the fact that you can write municipal laws and all those different things. But you can't do it in the manner or fashion that you've done that, because that overcomes then and is in direct conflict with the rule of sovereignty. The fact that Utah is a republic, is an independent nation state, and that you, Mr. Federal Legislator, have no authority to legislate anything that happens inside the true geographical boundaries of that Republic of Utah. Now, of course, me as a man walking around, I have my abilities of liberty, which is the freedom to move around. And if I happen to be a true officer, true agent, true employee of the United States, and that was one of the methods which they utilized to pay me for my services, and I'd agreed to that. And they had set up out here a bank system, private bank system for the United States. They'd done that with the approval of the state of Utah, the Republic of Utah. I mean, my rights of contracting cannot be impaired. That would be perfectly legal and legitimate. But for you to utilize that as a mechanism through your deceit, your lies, to try to drag me over into your jurisdiction unlawfully, steal my identity unlawfully by use of another set of numbers, the Social Security number, you have pretty much forced the previous generation, the parents, to force it upon them through threat, through duress, through violence, through loss of liberty. You've allowed all these other organizations, private businesses even, to then begin to utilize that as a form of identification. Now, there's some provisions in that Social Security Act that it can services can't be denied to me for not providing one, but you guys don't enforce that. And how I know that the state of Utah now is a political association under the territorial authorities of the United States through its criminal Congress is the fact that they force people here in the state of Utah to use a social security number in order to secure a driver's license. Now, I've even tried to not put that number on there. They won't process the application. So, that, in fact, is evidence of the fact that you have allowed, or you have not protected me against foreign invasion. My government, my sovereignty, the sovereigns acting in the capacity of sovereignty here in the Republic of Utah have failed in a known duty to me to protect me from invasion of foreign entities, to create a liability, a damage to me. You're working with them, complicit with them, to force me into their jurisdiction. That, people, is treasonous. The only definition of treason that's found in your Constitution is making open war against the states, the republics of the Union, the several states. So it's to protect me against conquest. My own government, supposedly what I believe is my own government, federal government, Senator Hatch, Lee, working openly against me to convert me to one of your subjects under conquest. That's an open act of war. That's treason. Now, I've said for a long time there's going to be trials for treason, and there are, and it's going to be based on that right there. Problem is, can't get enough people to read anything, and I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not a good enough speaker to get people convinced of what the validity of this information. You people have been conquered by a foreign national government known as the United States that took the sovereign authority that was granted to them by the people, the true sovereign authorities of the collective United States, the several states of the Union, to unlawfully invade, to unlawfully go on expeditions of conquest. Doesn't matter if they came here with guns, they came here with words. The pen is far mightier than the sword, isn't that what they say? Now, there are certain things that we can do, filings that we can put in the public notice. Our rights of necessity, our right to self-preservation require that I utilize those so-called Federal Reserve notes. Doesn't put me at any kind of a legal liability. Doesn't turn me into an employee, agent, officer of the United States, that criminal organization. I didn't do that voluntarily. The other aspect of contracts that you guys up there on the Supreme Court, your high and mighty, your snooty holdings that you produce all the time, you fail to recognize that fact. The voluntary component's not there. Oh, you say it might be voluntary. I did it. I had full knowledge. Bullshit. What else was I going to use? Especially in talking about these different organizations that have tried to start different forms of local currency, silver coins, Liberty dollars, local script in their local area. Guess what comes in every time? You guys come in and shut them down, prosecute them, put people in prison. Absolutely not. Your Title 18 doesn't attach to me, period. Why? Because I'm not one of your possessions. I'm not subject to the United States. I don't live in one of your territories. Because you've forced me to do certain things. I'm not part of your political associations either. Never have been, never will be. Now, I'm going to stop now before I get too carried away. People, you need to understand what's going on, what is happening to you. The same thing with Title 26. Income tax, all that nonsense, that bullshit. They do not have authority to tax, create trades or businesses out here inside the several states in order to tax them. The provisions, taxation, direct tax by apportionment, indirect tax by uniformity, still in place. Oh, they try to say the 16th Amendment, tax incomes, regardless of apportionment, didn't eliminate the direct tax portion. A direct tax is direct tax, period. Can't tax property, you can't tax me. Can't tax my life force energy. Converting that into value so I can meet my indispensable obligation of self-preservation, working towards my own perfection. In fact, you people are in direct violation of your known duties to help me. You've created legal liabilities for me that prevent me from achieving that. Now, of course, in the next few weeks, if I'm still alive, I'm going to start sharing paperwork with people of notices you can file in your county recorder's office, filings that we start putting in the courts, things that we start requesting through GRAMA and through the FOIAs, and start getting the evidence that we need to put these people on trial for treason, because that's what has to happen. You want to save the Dolphin and Wells, you need to help me. And nobody is for some reason. I don't understand it. People I've paid haven't. People I thought would for sure aren't. I don't know if it's so complicated. I'm such a crazy person. So meaningless. This is the only way to save life on this planet. Now, I know that's a big statement. But if you can't stop this criminal organization that operates under both the guise of the United States and also the United States of America through other political associations they've created also, to allow corporate malfeasance, to allow the raping and pillaging of the entire planet for the benefit of a small group. You check, look, all your international corporations, your multinational corporations, start checking the ownership of those. It's a very small group that controls everything. And they know what they've done. Why do you think that they've put so many of these surveillance activities into place? They're deathly afraid of people like me. They should be. My problem is I can't get enough people to help me for whatever reason. That's got to change, people. If your children, your grandchildren, your grandchildren's grandchildren want to have anything left on this planet, you need to help me. You need to start researching this information for yourself. There's tons of it out there. I'm trying to make it simplified, but I don't know if I'm doing a good job of that or not. Okay? So, understand territories are political associations being operated under the Article 4 authority of Congress. Pretty sure when they wrote that provision, the days they wrote the Constitution, that they didn't do it for that purpose. But these clever men and women working for this criminal organization have been trying to subvert the Constitution from the very beginning. understand the power of words, and in fact that you don't understand the power of words, that you're too busy watching Dance with the Stars, Jerry Springer, go to your job and gossip, sit on Facebook for hours. Huh? You're not going to read this stuff. They know that you're powerless. You're lazy. Somebody else to do it for you. Somebody else's job. It's not. It's your job. You have an indispensable obligation, one you can't get out of, imposed upon you by nature, to understand the nature of reality you live in, your governance, how it operates. That's your sworn duty, especially here if you claim to be an American or live in the United States of America, under that Declaration of Independence. You have an absolute duty. I'd suggest you read that document tonight, today, tomorrow, whenever. Really read the words for a change, what it says, what it means. If you don't think long train of abuse has been going on today, is it far, far in excess of what they were experiencing back then? Well, I guess they have managed to completely insulate you from reality. So, I got up my soapbox now. Like I said, I don't make any friends. I don't have anybody watching these things anyways, which is sad. But that's how it is. How it's been for a long time. I've tried for a long time to get this stuff out. I'm just not good. I'm failing somehow, and I don't know how to make it any better. I've asked for help. I don't get any. I've tried different things, but whatever. I don't have that much time left, okay? I really don't. Take a look at me, okay? I'm sick, people. Same shit that's going to be coming for a lot of you. Okay? So, once again, I pledge you my life, what little bit I have left, my fortune, what little bit I have left, and my sacred honor. I don't know if I have any of that left. But what I do have, I'm pledging you, your families, do what I can. I get this information out there, try to help people to understand it. Please, 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 come help me. Okay?